going on, guys? Today I'm going to be working on the Golf. It's time I get that turbo put in. I really don't want to do it. It's really rainy and it's wet. It's cold outside, but it's my daily driver and I've been putting it off for a week since we got back from Daytona Beach, and I really need to get the car back on the road. So I don't know if you can tell, but the shop is an absolute mess. As always, it's always a mess. I think I counted there's 10 bikes in here right now. So first thing, I'm gonna get all these bikes moved out. I'm gonna straighten up a couple things. A lot of the counters have a bunch of stuff all over them. I still got my paint sent out from when I painted the car, I don't know, like a month ago now. And there's just tools scattered everywhere. So let's get this all cleaned up first. So guys, here is the new turbine, all brand new. It was a nightmare trying to figure out. This is a KO3 turbo on this car, and some of them can fit like KO4s and things like that. It was a nightmare to actually figure out what turbine I needed, because everything that I would look up said it would fit a KO3, but then when I went in to double check if the part would fit my model of car, it never said it would fit. Luckily, I did get a casting number off the old turbo, and I looked it up, and it kind of got me in a better little ballpark, but was still not exactly what I was needing. And so I spent probably 2-3 hours just digging down websites and parts manufacturers, and I finally found one person who actually had the exact turbine that I needed, and got lucky enough to order it. And I think I only paid like $100 for this turbine right here. So I really hope that this actually fixes my issue, and hopefully I won't have any oil leaks again or coolant leaks, because coolant also does flow through this turbine. So yeah, all right guys, I'm gonna pop the hood. I'm gonna start tearing this thing apart and try to get this knocked out today. All right guys, if you see right here, this is the cold air intake from the intercooler. I got to remove that. I have to remove the shield here for the CV axle. Then I can remove that CV axle. Behind the CV axle, you can see the turbo, and there's 2 of the coolant lines right there and an oil line. I got the downpipe way over there. You can kind of see it behind the shield. Then I got to get way back here, undo these exhaust mounts for the downpipe, and I can slide that out of the way. Up there you can see where the hot side of the turbo goes to the downpipe. Remove all that. You can still see oil and everything leaking out of it right now. At that point, it's just the manifold bolts, and I should be able to pull out the turbo. Guys, we've got the CV axle out. I already have the hanger for the downpipe disconnected, and I have the shield taken off. It's kind of hard to record down there, so I'll just kind of have to piece it together and show you guys. So now at this point, I should have to disconnect the downpipe, and then I can start disconnecting all those oil lines, and then we can get to the all right guys, I've now gotten all the coolant lines disconnected. The downpipe is now disconnected. All that is left is to undo the manifold, and I should be able to drop that turbo. All right, guys, the turbo is out, and man, was that a freaking nightmare. I thought, you know, my second time doing this would be a little bit easier. It wasn't at all, and I'm not looking forward to putting it back in. But at least the hard part, somewhat of the hard part is done. Now we can take this all back apart, put the new piece in. Well guys, part of the issue, this seal definitely blew out, and get my damn camera to focus here. That should not be able to just pull out. So the shaft itself is snapped inside of the turbo. So, yeah, see where I was having some issues there. It is not pretty. From what I can tell on the cold side, none of this is like gouged really or anything like that. I don't think I'm gonna have any issues with that. There's a couple little shavings here and there, so we'll get that all cleaned up. No worries there. And yeah, I'm not cleaning out all this oil, all this gasket material, get the new gasket in there. Hopefully that'll be our fix. Dude, I think my turbo's okay. It's fine. No worries. Everything's fine. No mechanical failure at all. Whole lot of looks good. Alright guys, I have now got the turbine installed and we have everything put back together. It is about ready to go back in the car now. So guys, upon taking everything apart and seeing how badly damaged that the wheel was, or the turbine, the fan, whatever you want to call it, I don't know the proper name, I came to the realization of what actually happened. That being that I made a mistake. When I put the turbo in the first time, I did have some issues with the hot side clamping back down, and from what I can tell, I think while putting in the new one, I kind of had the same issue. Thankfully, I noticed that the turbine was catching, and I don't think I had it sitting properly on the housing. So what I can assume happened is that I put the housing on crooked and that turbine wheel was catching in there, and when I took it up the road to go and try to build boost, it tried to sit there and spin with one side seized up, which caused the aftermath that you saw in some of those clips, that one side was spinning, the other side had caught, and it just twisted and ripped it all to pieces, and at that point broke the shaft, and everything else just, you know, the aftermath afterwards. Oil started leaking everywhere, coolant started leaking everywhere, because the whole turbine itself actually came into a bunch of pieces. And luckily, by the grace of God, nothing was actually damaged, and I cleaned everything out, everything looks good, so let's get this thing installed. Still smoking like crazy. So guys, we got the whole car back together, we let it sit here and run, and all the excess oil that was still inside of the exhaust and the inlet for the turbo, it sat here and smoked and smoked and smoked. I let it run for maybe like an hour to an hour and a half, and it started to finally clear up, but it is running really good, and as far as I can tell, there is no leaks. But before we got to that point, if you can see down here, there was one fitting that did not want to seal properly, and it dumped out almost every bit of oil that was in that car. Luckily, we were able to shut it off in enough time and get it resealed. I topped it back off with some oil, got it back to its levels before we ran it that whole time. But as of right now, everything is looking good on it. I'm debating if I'm going to drive it to work in the morning and hopefully it doesn't break down. Kind of do like a little roadkill test run on it. I know I didn't get much footage of it putting back together. It was getting kind of dark, and my dad came out to kind of come help, and it was all hands on deck at that point to kind of rush and get it done. So it was getting late, we were running out of time. Probably be it for this video. thank you for watching, and make sure to like, share, subscribe, and keep those engines running.
That's a cloud of smoke from my car from 5 minutes ago.
Well, as you guys can see from that clip, the roadkill test drive first thing this morning did not go very well. The car ran really good up until I actually got on the road and actually put it under a little bit of load with some boost. And it started smoking really bad again, and it kind of started spitting and sputtering. So my assessment on that, I think maybe I hadn't gotten enough of the oil out of the cold side, and it sucked some of that oil back up and went into the top of the motor, and probably mixed with the spark plugs and the spark and the ignition, because it started misfiring really bad shortly after I got up the road. And my assumption is that the plugs are now soaked with oil. So I ended up having to go back, get my dad's truck to go to work, and I have yet to actually go over everything else on the car since I've been back home to assess what is going on. But I'm going to start with pulling those spark plugs out. I might have another short little clip of that whole experience to see what we can come up with. So yeah, thank you guys for watching.